Hey guys, welcome to another Sketchpad conversation. I hope you're going to enjoy this one. It's quite long, but it's also a little bit complicated. I think my glasses are on crooked or something here. There we go. Now I look straight. I think the glasses got sat on. Um, yeah, look, in the coaching process, a lot of people think that it's what to call it, disorganized or random. It's not structured, and that's quite not the truth. Um, when we evolve, when we change, when we grow, when we improve, we have to improve in many different aspects of the human condition. And one of the faults of a lot of coaching is that they say, what are your goals and how do we get you there? They don't consider the multiple aspects that are required for a coaching process. Firstly, if you're going to change your life, you need to change your mindset. If you're going to change or evolve your life, you need to evolve your health, because you need to be stronger and more resilient and more powerful. And it all comes from the body and your health habits. Thirdly, you need to change your environment, because we are the environment we create, and that means brand. Fourthly, we need to change our let's say prioritization, what we think is important in a day and how much we get done. So if we don't change our prioritization as we evolve, we don't get more done in less time, and therefore we get more and more work to do and less time to do it in, and that's going to lead to a collision. Fifth is we improve and re-tap back into your vision and ask you, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What are the behaviors that get you to what you want? Do you have a clear vision? Clear vision, clear vision. But we don't do that until we've done the first four. Finally, we work on the spiritual aspect, which is the stories you tell yourself. What do you believe about the past, present, and future? What are your paradigms? What are the things that run around the music that's going on in your mind 24/7? And that has to evolve continuously, because you can never know what you know at the end of your life. You can only let go of what you don't know and realize that there is a new awareness coming every time you move forward in life. So I hope this Sketchpad video gives some explanation. It's quite complicated and I've made a bit of a mess of it, but it's, again, stream of consciousness, thinking out loud. I hope you enjoy. Bye. Good morning, good afternoon, girls and boys. Today I'm doing a description of the coaching process that I've created, that's based on evolving us, as well as helping us transform ourselves. So you've probably seen me draw the organize, supervise, deputize triangle. Organize, supervise, and deputize triangle. Now, whether you're at work or at home, whether you're in a relationship or dealing with a health problem, the three elements of growth are organize, supervise, and deputize. Now, we've written this in many different forms, and I think you might be interested to see the different forms that comes in. Firstly, let's look at it from a universal point of view. Water, earth, and fire. Now, in the ancient mysteries, these were the three elements that they basically described life by. And what they basically said is God is at the top, which is the ultimate infinite. And they didn't conceptualize it as being a human being, God. It was an infinite. But they used other words like grace, inspiration, the divine. They use many different words to describe this point between fire and water at the top of the pyramid. They gave other words to earth, and the quote was, as above, so below. And what they were implying is in the earth there is emotion. And emotions have two sides, past and future. So if there is no past, there is no future, there is no emotion. And that's why many of the teachers, such as Eckhart Tolle, talk about being in the power of now. Because in the now, there is no emotion. So in the past, we have guilt. We can't have fear. And in the future, we have fear. So the summary of the whole of existence is drawn out for us in these two statements. Here is emotion. Now, in emotion is elation, elated, and depressed. Infatuated, only see the positive, and resentment, only see the negative. There's pleasure, and there's pain. There's self, and there's other. So given that we have the four elements of separation, and they all exist down at the level of emotion here, we're identifying that when we're in grace, in the highest state of our nature, we have no emotion. The lower in our state we go towards our earthly self, the more emotion we have. So this leads to the diagram that you'll see very often from me, which is organized, supervised, deputized. The water in the Greek language was the fall from grace. And they talk about in their stories the rains. And this is the feminine because it gives birth. So the feminine is not infatuated in the traditional language as being a woman. The feminine is the water element, and it takes thought, which is the spirit, the human spirit. It takes spirituality. It takes formless, because up here in the higher states of our being, there is no form. There is just pure thought. Unconditional love is another word for it. And what the feminine does, it comes up with an idea, a thought. And the process of the water, which is the falling from grace, is in a sense falling into materiality, into the material world. And the material world, we have the duty to manifest, like children or businesses or sporting accomplishments, trophies, dollars. We have the process of manifestation, which is giving birth to things. So taking from formless to form, that process is the feminine. Now, they're not saying it's wrong, nor do in the mysteries they infatuate the spirit. They say that it's part of a process, and that's what I'd love to talk to you about today. They also talk about the fires of hell. And the fires of hell destroy form and lead it back to formless. So the fires are, in another language, change, war, violence, destruction, rainforest burning. The fires are COVID. So anything to do with rapid change, from form to formless, from life to death, is considered the fires, and this is the masculine. So if you take all this as being the foundation principle for all existence, that we go from spirit to matter back to spirit again, When you're born, you're pure of spirit. You are in a way, before you come to this earth, you're formless. You're a thought. You're a god in a way. And then you spend your life trying to make things happen, to create families, to create wealth, to create nice cars, to create businesses, to create things. And then you return to God, to formless, when you die. So this is the process of death and birth. Now what happens is that we get addicted to one of these two sides of the equation. We either get addicted to change, which is smashing the status quo and give it a new inspiration, or we get infatuated with keeping things alive and giving and creating life. But the process of moving from one to many to one is indisputable. You can't argue it. It is the infinite truth that transformation and change is going to happen. You are going to die. There is no question about it. The only question is when. So what I've done is to incorporate this in coaching. So what I do is I move you through the three phases: the feminine, the life, which is the manifestation of things that you say I want, and the death, which is letting go of things that are now no longer of value to you. And this cycle is the coaching process that I take you through. Now, there are serious questions to this cycle, serious questions, and I'll just go through a few of them right now. If you are giving rise to a family and you hold on to that family and say, this family is meant to be here for the rest of my born days, but it expires. So here's a birth, the feminine, I get married. I start to create a life with my partner, but sometime in this life, for some reason or another, it gets to the expiration date and it's time to let go, which is divorce or separation. What we typically do, what causes this process to be so complex, is that we hang on. So let's just put it in another language. Here's a triangle: birth, marriage, divorce. But what we can do is say, no, I don't want to let go. I want to hang on. And then I want to hang on longer. Oops. And then I get forced to let go. So the deeper the triangle goes, the more trauma. Now remember we said this is emotion down here? Well, emotion is dualistic. There's a negative side to it and there's a positive side to everything. So the longer we hang on to stuff, the deeper we go into this triangle, this pyramid, the more likely we are to experience pain and pleasure, self and other, elation and depression, infatuation and resentment. So sometimes this is a very complicated conversation because there are 7 levels of the human brain. Now, each of them think for itself. So you might be at a state of grace, so you think, I'd love to get married. And then you go, then you pick up a vibe and say, I don't want this anymore. This is, something's wrong. You pick up a vibe and you could let go and say, thank you. Right here, thank you. For the 3 years or 3 or 5 or 10 or 3 months that we've been together, thank you. Goodbye, let go. Now, start again. Build another relationship. But the most important thing to realize here is the longer we hold on to something and the further we go down this pyramid, the bigger the drama is going to be in the process of letting go. So down here, it's called fight flight. And we call it got to, which means there's no choice but to let go. So what a lot of people do, and I'm talking relationship today, what a lot of people do, they hang on and hang on and hang on until they trigger their partner to go into fight flight, and their partner becomes the trigger for relationship separation. So their partner initiates it, and then they feel like they're the victim. But if you look at the behaviors that have driven that partner to have an affair, or driven that partner to behave badly, or to finally move on, you'll find that this person about here, this person really knew that they wanted to let go, but they didn't know how. And so they held on. And so they started to fill up this emotional thing. Now, this emotional thing down here is filled with complexity. It's not wrong. It's giving birth to, trying to give birth to something that doesn't want to be born. If the relationship, there's an intuition, the relationship is over after a period of time, but it sinks down into this lower level. It's trying to give birth to something, and there's a positive and a positive to it, and there's a negative to it. But the positives get bigger because they're fear-based. Remember, the two sides of this is fear and guilt. So if there's a positive, which means avoiding fear, there'll also be a negative, which is guilt about hanging on. So the coaching process has built into it quite a beautiful relationship to the universal truths and the universal laws. And basically it says like this: we need to, on a daily basis, evolve. And if we evolve on a daily basis, we will work through the things that may confuse us, so that we continually are growing. And we call this the back on track process. The back on track process has 6 elements. 1, cellular growth, which is mindset. 2, I've written cellular, but the second one is cellular growth. The first one is mindset. The third one is environment. The fourth one is vision and values. The fifth one is vision. And the sixth one is self-talk. Now, I give these different names. Sometimes I call this work. Sometimes I call this home, because home is an environment. Or sometimes I call it brand. So I give these different names depending on the circumstances, to whether I'm working in business or with executives or with a family or whatever. But there are 6 distinct steps that take us down through the process of going from thought on a daily basis, through the giving birth, through the process of life, and through the process of evolving, so that we can come back to grace the next morning. Now, coaching's complicated, and it can be complicated if an individual says, here's what I really think. Here's what I really think. My organized, supervised, deputized, or my spirit, body, mind. That's at an individual coaching, spirit, body, mind. Here's what I really think. This is what I really feel in my body. This is what I really think in my mind. And this is what I really experience, or let's say know, at my heart, at a deep level of heart, soul. But when there's contradictions between what we feel, what we think, and what we know, when there's contradictions between the three, there becomes an internal argument, which we call that a split heart. So sometimes in the process of coaching, there's a necessity to help an individual realize that where is the truth?
Where is the truth? Is it in what you feel? Is it in what you think? Or is it in what you know? Because the decisions to disrupt this triangle so it doesn't go further into corruption and disruption, the decision to interrupt this triangle and actually own a truth is really how happy you'll be. So the true search for happiness is to stay close to grace, or we call it inspiration. So that means we don't go too far down the triangle before we realize we don't go too far down the triangle in order to trigger the lower states of mind, the got to and the shoulds and these things. We basically say, look, I don't want to go down into the drama department of the business. I don't want to go down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to operate in a rather inspired state of mind, which means I'm not going to generate masses of chaos, and I'm not going to therefore generate masses of elations or hyper addictions. So we basically cut off before we traumatize ourselves down here with illusion that there's going to be a pleasure without a pain. So the choice of coaching is actually to try and maintain ourselves up in this higher zone of the cone of consciousness. To do that, we created the back on track process, which is really, as I've said, described earlier. We work on our mindset. We work on our cellular health. We improve that and get it to here. We then work on manifestation. This is on a daily basis, creating what we want. So not getting into elation or depression. And then we work on, then of course this comes down to our work and our vision. And then we return to spirit, back up the top, our spirit or our soul or our heart or our truth. We return to that with self-talk. And self-talk has to change. Now, the biggest problem I have with this conversation and as the coach is that if I teach somebody a process, what we're doing here is continually working through the process of evolving ourselves so that we don't enter into the darker realms of trauma. And down here, it's really pretty much a waste of time. For everything you create, you destroy. So even though there's creation and destruction down here, if it's done with mindfulness, we don't have to de-manifest what we've created in order to return to spirit. We evolve constantly. So the diagram or the logo for this is really simple. It goes down, across, up, and lands at a higher place of inspiration than it did before. So this continual process goes on and on and on. And this can happen on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. But we're always staying in the top zone of the cone. And so but we could, if we wanted to, go all the way down here and go up here. So we could, if we wanted to, be in the bigger pyramid and include that. So this would be, this area here would be much, much, much bigger and have much more what I call time-wasting energy expenditure. So that would not be a good use of life. It would not be a good use of time, and it would not make us happy, because true happiness comes when we see the balance between spirit, body, and mind, or strategy, structure, and culture in a business. So the process of doing this. Now, the one big struggle I have, if I teach somebody something that for their cellular growth that helps them maintain this bottom lowest level of of health, the lowest level of drop into ill health, that means it needs to have discipline to keep it going. And so what happens for me is I find that if I say, okay, let's do step one, we do a discard on a daily basis. And I encourage a person to do that, which means they evolve their mindset daily. After about 3 weeks, I ask, how's the mindset work going? And they go, I just do it in my head. And I go, no, that means that person has dropped now below the level of want to, which is inspired, because this is really inspired higher level thinking, into got to. In other words, they'll do the discard process when it's necessary, and that's too late. Or we get onto a health program and I give them a diet and I say, okay, so don't eat this and do eat that. The purpose of that diet for them, designed specifically for them, is that they don't go down into here where things that are not good for this individual cause them to operate in a got to or a should or a need to space in their life. What we're trying to do is keep this individual in a good state of inspiration, which is what I call happy. Now, happy is not elation, it's not depression, it's not infatuation, it's not resentment, it's not stuck in the future, it's not resenting the past, it's not thinking that self and other are so separate. Happy means that we feel body, mind, spirit, body and mind aligned. So I help people align body and mind to the divine and help people feel fine. So that's the coaching process. And sometimes people think it's not, what's the word for it? There's no order in the chaos, or that it's not systematized. But I have to follow, when I work with an individual in coaching, I have to follow their strategy. I have to make sure that they're implementing strategy and get organized, which is mindset and cellular health. Once I can do that, I go, okay, time to work on the work side of things and the vision side of things. And then it's time to, once I see that, it's time to work on on self-talk, the spiritual language of psychology, which means letting go of what you've done in order to create something bigger. Now, I can't go here unless here is solid, and I can't go here unless here is solid. So very often in the coaching process, when I help somebody improve their health and they go, okay, now I've got a work problem, they sacrifice their health to go and fix their work. And then they fix their work problem up, and then they wonder why their health is in the shit. But then they go, well, I've got a health and a work problem. My relationship or my spiritual side is in the shit. So we will always be supported and challenged in each of the areas of life. So support and challenge goes down here, support and challenge goes here, support and challenge goes there. And we are always evolving back to the spirit, to the human heart, to the soul, where there was guidance. So manifestation means the rain, the earth, the fire. And each individual has the feminine aspect, the androgynous aspect, the manifestation aspect, and the masculine aspect. And each individual, male or female, has all three operating in spirit, body, and mind. And getting those three to work together, that's the mission of coaching. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.